pretty fucking good.
And now you learn
depends
the
if I have an
true
AUG, I
lesson
do
of the void.
If I do it natty,
Ah, you've
then it's
arrived.
less.
Our friend awaits you in the High Hollows.
Our queen offers a most wondrous gift. We will become greater than we are.
Bam! Bam! Bam!
Invaders, fear not, citizens. We will show them Onsuret's wrath. Do you not know who I am? Whose voice you challenge?
Bam! 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 Is this Shaman Biss?
Probably. What? Nah. That time. Yeah. You want it to be more weeks out? So did you want it to be more weeks out? Those moths.
What did you say? The tank just got fucked by that orb.
Is that what he died?
Yeah.
No, he died.
Not even worthy of the fifth strand.
Well, he got hit by the orb.
Ansurek has eyes everywhere. You'll need to blind them to meet the Vizier.
Oh yeah, doubt, I think. Dang.
Alright, I'm headed to red. Good luck with your key.
Thanks.
Flashback, and that consolidates a couple of flashback. Thinking about particular strategies that could make this section of the run a little bit more clear. We saw a little bit of tech being shown off here by Holy Moly. He spawns his screen on purpose and he pulls a couple of trash packs together, darknesses himself for a little extra DR, and then just throw a few of those bombs on this trash pack. And that consolidates a couple of trash packs you normally otherwise wouldn't see any of that bombing run into, and it just makes it a little more efficient. The question then that I have is why don't teams go a little bit further and pull more of the trash?
How scalable is it?
Yeah, exactly. How scalable is it? How much more can you pull? I think I was talking with Mike in the replay room. Is like, well, you actually probably could pull the trash in front of the boss into that as well. But then, how much boss damage are you using on the tunnel, road, and strike? So there's definitely optimization to be brought to it, but it's good to see it shown up here. Showing that you don't have to be the one seed in the weekend to show up and attack it. Have new ideas that can potentially make the dungeon faster. But overall, in general, this is just execute the dungeon before you know it. You know, they play this way in the competition, so I expect they will do so. Probably not tomorrow, but you know, on Sunday, I think they could potentially take a map or even sneak a series victory on them if they play like this and mandatory has some hiccups. So, all in all, a good run from Holy Moly, and I think some seriousness. You know, they had a good run in general, but they were just a little bit slower, and then obviously this wipe on Draga on Valiona kind of sealed it for them. They were still going for the pull to keep themselves in the dungeon, but just weren't able to make it happen.
It's how it kind of goes in this one, right? We've seen deaths rack up in Grim Batal, and life was brought up during the run even. It tends to happen because of the volatility of this one and how difficult many of the teams have sort of found it to be. But tell us, I mean, we talked about how some seriousness is coming down here. Do you feel like it's more than you expected starting things out?
I think that something that's actually been kind of typical of these MBI teams that we even saw in Group A and trends continuing to Group B is that their strats are very similar to some of our top end teams, right? Whenever we were looking at Holy Moly, that is the third overall seed. Obviously, it's the second seed of the weekend, but it's the third overall seed. And so we kind of expect them to be looking at stomp competition, especially in round one. But I think that for some seriousness, they're doing very similar strats, and it kind of comes down to consistency. I think that that's going to be the differentiator between the top teams and like the lower seeded teams is how often are you going to be having like one or two death mistakes inside your dungeon, and how much is that going to come back to bite you? Because Challenger Peril is just so punishing to the point where even if you have like great strats, if you're only consistent with them 70% of the time, you know, there's always wipes that you can have on the Valiona encounter and stuff like that. And I think that for some of these dungeons, they are just, you have a higher degree of likelihood of wiping at specific points as well.
Absolutely, and the unfortunate thing is, or fortunate, you know, it's a good test, they're going straight from Grim Batal into Necrotic Wake, which is the other one that's notorious for exactly this. I mean, some seriousness I think really being put through the gauntlet here, but they put up a great fight, especially when you consider all of our predictions down below have leaned so heavily towards Holy Moly. Now, Holy Moly, of course, lived up to their name, the exclamation just being a perfect encapsulation of the very, very clean run that they did there, showing off some other tech as well, which I think has really kind of pushed them forward in how we think they'll match up. These two will be going up against each other here in Necrotic, but Stratus, I see you kind of pensively thinking, you know, Holy Moly, some seriousness, Necrotic Wave. This is a tricky one, and it has some portals that have caused some big wipes. What do you think of these two? How is it going to navigate this? What do you think they'll bring to the table as we get into it here in Game 2?
It's definitely a dangerous and volatile dungeon, but I think it's a little bit less so than in the pool, especially because this is 2 feet levels lower. We've got 1 less affix on this dungeon as well. I think that this should be, if Holy Moly can play 85% as well as they played back in the pool, they're going to be a clean 0 death run in here, and that's going to be, I think, all they'll need to secure the 2-0 in this series. But some series, this looks absolutely, like Huddle was saying, they looked really good in that the pool for much of that dungeon run, so I think they definitely have some potential in this place too, and should not be counted out.
How volatile is 9?
Yeah, it's weird because as the heat level gets lower, it doesn't necessarily get less volatile because you might just be pulling bigger to make up for it, so I still think they're less than an 11s in the pool. I think this is going to be less dangerous than that cube just was.
It's Frosty K and Day. Oh, and Unholy. Okay, some seriousness is actually playing the Unholy. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Unholy, one problem with it in the super late queues is, again, there are a couple of setup globals that you have, but the bigger you pull, the happier Unholy gets, so that is an interesting trade-off between the two, where Unholy, you know, there's things pulling it towards high queues and also towards the lower queues in our overall, and I mean, look at the overall damage on this first pull. This is a huge argument in favor of that Unholy DK. Nearly pressing there's 20 million DPS over the 20 million marker now.
Holy Moly had
incredibly impressive.
Holy Moly had their Enhancement Shaman and their Assassination rotating 20 million DPS as well, though. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes it's like cannibalism, right? Like, the damage is going to get done by somebody, and it's just a question of, like, who's going to steal that extra damage, right? They're cannibalizing communication.
yeah, good point. That's very
I'm not sure if cannibalism is the word for it, but, you know, they steal it, right? The damage gets teased, it gets raw.
Yeah, exactly. And now Holy Moly here with a slightly faster lifeline split, able to kill that boss off in 33 seconds with 28% enemy forces, an absolute masterclass. Now they move on to the Naruto mini boss pull, and they have basically no cooldown here. That's the scary part of this area, is you're pulling a bunch of this trash with no cooldowns. If you're playing that on Holy DK, you're slapping Scourge Strike, actually doing less damage than the tank right now.
Yeah, it's you know, sometimes not a cooldown, not the greatest time as well. You do have your Dark Transformation every 45 that you get to press, but if you don't press it exactly on T, sometimes you're just supposed to hold it now for your next wave on, which can be a tough spot to be. As you have a death here to that Shadow Well ground effect. That thing can really sneak up on you in some seriousness. Are going to end up using a B-res here, but they actually don't have a good way to cast it, so they have to use those jumper cables. They were able to land it though, so they're now down a B-res for pretty much the remainder of this dungeon. Meanwhile, Holy Moly already into this next strata concealment, setting up their next pull.
Something that you talked about, and whenever you were referencing the volatility of this dungeon, you didn't think it actually makes it that much safer in some aspects. I do think that the big thing that becomes safer though is the tank survivability.
Yeah.
You're going to see far fewer tank deaths in a 9 than you would in 3C in like an 8. Now it does Fortified is still applied to the or it's but Fortified is still applied to the but it's still a situation where you're just going to have far fewer tank deaths as
yeah, depending on the on the size of the pull, but often some of the scariest stuff for tanks can be like the medium-sized pull that you don't have cooldowns for. Yeah. These like massive pulls that you have cooldowns for, especially as the key level is a little bit lower, can actually feel safer. Especially because a lot of our tanks, they do scale defensively with the number of targets you're in combat with, right?
Vengeance does that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Vengeance is healing off the damage, it's healing everybody, so more targets is more healing.
Killed a mark already?
Before the trash at this point, yeah. She's doing some incredible. That was the point when the boss dies from really trash. That's actually a point where it's like, okay, more funnel would be helpful here. We actually need more AOE, right? We need to kill off this trash now because that's actually what's slowing us down the most.
Look at the split as well. So since they're playing so heavy into the 2-minute cooldown, the fact that that split is exactly that 233, that allows them to get that full breath of Cinder Ghost, that allows them to get that full value of that Ascendance and whatnot, and I think that is just like perfectly timed for when they were pulling all of that trash from the boss and how they had that set up, and I think that the routing in the dungeon that Holy Moly is doing is a masterclass so far that we've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, this is incredibly fast out of Holy Moly. This is one of those runs that says, hey, we're not just looking to like win this series, we are looking to win this weekend. We're looking to win global finals, right? If they can put up 2 runs in this series on that 0 death, full speed lifestyle, that is incredibly impressive for them and an incredibly good sign for them going forward into this weekend. Is one of the reasons we do see priests out of pretty much everybody here is that mind control on the flesh crafter.
I love it.
You see right now for Holy Moly. Huge time save. It lets them preserve that flesh crafter for the remainder of the dungeon instead of having to kill it off to advance this RB. They get these levers in on the rest of the dungeon. Not to mention making that huge goal a tiny bit safer as well.
It's a forced RP, but like the way you can skip it is if you have that mob under the effect of mind control. Basically, the game is like, oh, okay, you've already killed off all the crap. That's your pet now. And so you're able to continue to have that mob doing an insane amount of friendly fire damage to the other mobs. I know in like hierarchies it can even do upwards of like 50 or 60 million damage with the throw cleaver. It's still very valuable, and I think it's something that they're going to factor into their route, making sure that they have it to be able to help break shields on Nalthor and stuff along those lines. Okay, I just consider this. Would you ever be able to beat Nalthor sending somebody downstairs on a 9 since it's non-tyrant?
Maybe.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't happen until like 40 seconds into the fight.
Especially if you've got a spear here. It's still holding a spear, although that's probably for this boss rather than that boss, right? Well, maybe so.
So we saw that it was on a 10, and two beat it with a spear and the throw cleavers. So since we don't have Tyrant, I wonder if they can beat it on a 9.
Yeah, try
without
that here.
Yeah. I think an interesting decision point that Holy Moly's going to have here. Because there's a world where they're able to save. So basically, if they beat the escape from certain Stitch Flesh, that saves you probably about 30 seconds. But if they could beat it without that, then they could actually save themselves a lot of time on Nalthor. And we're going to see right here what the decision point is going to be for Holy Moly as they have full Surge and Stitch Flesh. They're going to pull the creation a little bit further back. This is pretty common. You don't want to drop those puddles in a really weird spot. So you want to pull that creation just a hair back as Igu is the person being targeted by this creation. You need to make sure that that hook does get the boss off the platform. And I think that this flesh trap is going to get broken out of the cage right here, right as that throw cleaver cast has come off. Cooldown, making sure to line everything up perfectly. And Surge and Stitch Flesh is starting to go down a little bit, and they did not commit that spear dreadnought like you and I were talking about.
Yeah, here comes the first meat hook in his down phase. It's going to interrupt that morbid fixation. And the goal now is to push the boss below 5% health, because when it gets below 5% health, it will no longer escape upwards. And they are going to be able to do that easily. They're going to be able to mind control the wall faster, and they're going to carry this spear upwards. We don't have a loss. We do have Red Syndicate coming up.
And Ascendance and Death
Mark. Yeah, he's the spear here on full. Here comes that spear.
I think they might be able to beat this oh, that's not fast.
I think you might be right. Yeah, this dungeon is getting just absolutely melted. All of these CDs is going to line up with the Alex as well, giving them even more damage. We are still inside that Breath Syndragosa window. Deathmark still active on the boss as well as that Kingsbane does explode finally. Boss is getting very low here. They need to kill the Flesh Crafter as well. They've now released it and are leaving it down. The boss won't stop until the boss and that Flesh Crafter are both dead. But it is about to stop here. That Flesh Crafter does die. 7:47 is the timer for Holy Moly. Oh my goodness.
Just watch. What did we just watch, dude?
I mean, okay, we'll just do it again. Holy moly. That was rock wild, everybody. Victory goes to Holy Moly here. That brings them 2-0, which was our prediction, but notably, the fastest dungeon run in MDI history is 8 minutes 54 seconds for some mandatory moving life for 21 time. Remember that we have some scaling during the 2023 Global. So this run here, phenomenal. I mean, Tunnels, looking at it, how do you think this measures up to that? Is that, I mean, we have different key levels, we have different things like that, but that was a phenomenal run.
I mean, I think it's like a different affix system. There's a lot of differences between the two. I think it's really hard to compare, but I think that if you say anything other than that run by Holy Moly was insane, I think you were just completely lying, because the way and the execution and the knowledge of what they were going to be using all of those weapons on every single time they pulled a boss, the boss died in 30 seconds or something like that. That felt absolutely insane.
I mean, Zyra has the analytical side of this, although I think we're all still just kind of sitting here like, what? Well, hold on. I mean, incredibly played from them, but ironic. I mean, from your perspective, as you were looking at it analytically, I mean, wow, right? Wow.
Yeah. I knew we were in for a treat when the key started, and I went around and grab a drink, and I turned back around, and Lightbone was already dead. So we were in for an interesting dungeon here. Yeah, I think you put it about as cleanly as you possibly can here. Anytime they pulled a boss, the boss just died in 30 seconds. I mean, the Blightbone kill here was, what, 25 seconds? And like you said, it was really a perfect management of multiple things in the key. Number one, making sure cooldowns were lining up for all of their good pulls, and specifically their boss pushes when they had their spears available. But also, this skip in the middle section of the dungeon where they pull a bunch of trash up into a mark so they can get it snapped on top of the boss. A lot of this is the priest skipping past this trash in the mine scene, stunning the RP so nobody else gets stunned when they walk up. And then they can then pretty easily trip people into the boss room on top of the mountain and just get everything ready to go. It was a really nice execution from them, even though if we missed the jump a couple times, it didn't cost them too much time. And then of course the priest hero back just really managing to rush back this last section of the dungeon, making sure they drop the minor control anytime that the throw cleaver is off cooldown so you can get those cleavers into the boss and just do a ton of damage. Every single time the cleavers goes off, it's just more than 10% of the boss's HP chunked down, and this really saved them a bunch of time at the end of the key. All in all, just an incredibly impressive run. And you know, just because we can, let's just include a clip of the entire final boss kill because we need to kill time anyways, because it's only going to last 30 seconds. Look at the burst damage here, man. The boss just instantly gets chunked. Look at the throw cleaver here. Boss goes from 40% to 25% in the course of like a second. Just insane execution from this team. Holy moly, it's a very apt name for this skill. Sub 8-minute run, like you mentioned, fastest run we've ever seen in Indian history, and that's a pretty long history of this one. We've had 9-minute Caldazars, we've had 8 minutes for 5 pulls. I've got a sub 8-minute run.
So they get 12 gilded crests for that, right? I think
This is good crest round.
yeah, I think I could get a lot of crests on my druid.
I'm looking for some people for +9.
Love it. I love it. My God, this was just an incredible run. I
Only
mean,
the
earlier
strong
talking about how some seriousness, they were performing well, even better than we expected. But when you're up against something like this, where Holy Moly has a perfectly plotted, perfectly coordinated, perfectly executed run, I mean, there's just nothing you can do unless you're going to match that exactly. And, you know, Dratnos, I would love to hear your insights as well. You also gave us a really profound insight this run, which is that stealing equals cannibalism, that they're one and the same. So thank you, Dr. Atlas, for teaching us so much today. When you were looking at this run from Holy Moly, what are your thoughts coming out of it?
I will say, I think that, I mean, Holy Moly looks incredible. I actually think there was good signs here for some seriousness as well, right? Like, obviously, all of us predicted a 2-0 for Holy Moly, a 2-0 came to Cath. You could read that as like, oh, some seriousness got demolished, but they actually didn't. They were doing well in both of those dungeons. I think they have a strong path through the lower bracket.
Is really high. Now for no title, they have people who have, you know, competed in MDIs in the past. Also people who push very high keys on live. I'm familiar with some of their names. Like, they are consistently some of the top 20 or 30 players for like live key pushing. So I think that no title should have a little bit of an advantage here. But I think that this is a matchup that honestly could go either way.
Yeah, the seeding here might be a little deceptive as well, because you gotta remember, we did our time trials like right as guilds in that range were finishing progression, so there may not have been that much time for time trials to happen, right? So that could be a sort of sleeper advantage for Advanced. That may have been a, you know, they may have had less time trial time than they now have practice time, now that, of course, they've finished killing Queen Ensorek.
I think this is also might be a good situation where you see some of the strats that were deployed in Group A, and as you get further away from like having to commit a bunch of progression time to killing Queen Ensorek, and you're able to like look at some of those strats, you could be able to maybe adopt something. So
I don't like the fact that I picked this 2-0. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wish I could actually go back and amend my prediction, but I will not be amending it because production won't let me.
There's no changing the past. Production has dictated it, but we can only look at shaping the future. And here these teams are going to be trying to see who's going to be able to get victory. We have no title versus advance. I'm reading here like advance. It's just one time, right? But who knows? I mean, if they can move forward, they may just be unstoppable. Mystic Tyrannocyte is going to be the first map here. And while both of these teams are newcomers here, again, they're strong contenders on their percentile for their raid experience that has kind of put them one against the other. Now they get to really show us what they are going to show in the Mythic Dungeon International. Mystic Maze has some potential pitfalls, but it's a little bit lower of a key level here than our last one, as we saw last weekend. So Dratno says no title and advanced face off here. You know, Mist, how do you think they're going to approach it?
Yeah, I'm looking to see Warlocks. I think as the key level goes down, the value of the gateway goes up even more because travel time becomes even more valuable. But the teams do not agree with me in the slightest. We're going to see 0 Warlocks in this dungeon. We do have a little bit of difference between the two though. We have a Unholy Death Knight for advance versus a Frost Death Knight for no title, and then we also have a different tank healer combination where we have the warrior who's already just procced back from veteran. Well, that's that really powerful warrior sort of pseudo cheat death effect they get when they drop low, but it's on a 3-minute CD, so dangerous times for no title. Whereas advance are playing the Vanguard Demon Hunter Disc Priest instead.
I actually like this approach by both of the teams. Now, last week we've seen a lot of pet classes, I mean, Warlock mostly, but also Hunters, to not only the gateway here at the start, as I mentioned, but also to be able to pull through the walls with the pets. But Denver saw Scaarred not playing any of that stuff, and we've seen some of the Team Complex actually not pulling through the walls at all, just going slowly, maybe by maze, which ended up being faster than what all the other teams did with their pets, right? And I think that is actually a play for Mists, to just not have to pull through the wall, because the time that it takes to trash, to walk through the walls, to be able to gather up and then kill it is not actually, or at least doesn't seem like a time save. And I think maybe no title and advance also realized this and end up going without those pet classes and just sticking with that meta DPS comp, as both the teams are gathering up the second Bowbreaker pool that they have to finish off to be able to spawn the boss here. They both did